Hey,
Hello.
hello.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you
Good
are.
evening. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
You
Pretty good.
just said it's snowy in Canada at the moment.
Yeah, we just got dumped on a couple of days ago.
Nice. What's the temperature? Is it actually really, really cold, or?
It's not too extreme. I think just below freezing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. So
Yeah. Totally
so
fine.
and do you do any winter sports, snow sports, skiing, or having fun otherwise in the snow?
Just some hiking.
Nice one.
But
Yeah.
intense as I get.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, I kind of miss it because we have just been getting terrible UK style weather over the last couple of years, and snow never stays. Anyway, but good. Let me introduce everybody properly, politely. With us today are David Kangding Ray, joining us from Berlin, right?
Yeah. That's
Cool.
right.
Nice to see you, man. How are you?
Nice to see you too. Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And of course, Christina and Rich from Orphx joining us from Canada. And you're both in different spaces, but you're actually quite close to each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're, just about 20 minutes away from each other.
Yeah.
Okay, 20 minutes. Okay, that's cool. Around sort of near Hamilton, I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and you both have your own space. Looks like you have your own working space.
Yeah. No, we live separately and we each have a basement studio. So,
Okay, and when you work together, do you work from a distance, or do you always work together from either of your locations?
we'll get together usually at Christie's studio, and then send stuff back and forth as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
kind of a combo, but yeah. It's
Right.
better to be together in the same space, but hello.
1,000 details is
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so but because we're in the same bubble, we can still do stuff at the moment together.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I've done loads of collaborations and worked together regularly with certain artists, and I always feel when you're in the same room, you get stuff done really quickly, and it's so much more time consuming when you are sending stuff back and forth afterwards.
Yeah.
How does it work with you? Is it do you finish stuff on your own easily, or would you rather be in the same place to get
We'd
stuff
rather be in the same
done?
place. I mean, these days usually we will start with like an improvised recording that we do together, and then edit from there. It kind of depends on the project, though. Like some things we'll be sending back and forth, but yeah, the preference is definitely to have the foundation, something that we build together in the same space.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a lot faster when you're together in the same space. Otherwise, you get kind of nitpicky or you get fixated on one idea rather than just like working with things and letting chance things happen. So
Yeah, and it's about the energy as
more
well. Right?
fun. Yeah.
I mean, being with somebody in the room, like seeing another person sort of moving to whatever is going on, and have the real time feedback and sort of eye contact, and you don't even have to speak to each other. I mean, I don't know how that is with you guys, but
Yeah.
many collaborations they happen without ever exchanging a word. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, we were lucky to get to visit David's studio. I think once, at least, anyway, once or twice when we were in Berlin, and super fun.
Yeah, that was good times. Yeah, yeah, easier times, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really nice session. Actually, I have really fond memories of it.
Yeah.
Is it something that got released or came out?
No, just a fun jam.
We were just playing around.
Just playing around, yeah.
Listening, experimenting, trying out gear.
Yeah.
I love that. That led to me getting an analog rhythm after playing with yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Little-
I should get percentage from Electron, I guess.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I never I didn't even have a artist discount or anything, so it's not fair.
Well, this is the place to make them aware of it. Hey, Electron.
Yes. Hey, I'm here. Yeah. No, I really like this kind of like easy going session like we did, like where it was just about the fun, because you know, I mean, when you play guitar or something, like a lot of time, or you play any instrument for that matter, when you're not necessarily playing this at one moment to do a track or record something. Sometimes you just play guitar just because it feels good.
Yeah.
So I really love also these moments where actually it's not focused, it's not for doing something, it's not efficient, but it's just about simply just noodling around and like
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah.
It's it's really precious. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I actually this whole project that I've been doing for the last couple of years is all based around that idea. I've got this space which is big enough to invite people and to just have fun. Actually, it's not really my mission, but it's a really one of the part of the project here is to capture those moments. Those moments where you are not really thinking about what you want to achieve, but are just noodling around, or you would consider it noodling only yourself, because if you would play it to someone else, they would say, "Wow, this it's actually a quite nice piece of music," but it's maybe not in the in a song structure or final format or anything. And I think that all musicians who work like this, or who record a lot, have shitloads and shitloads of stuff shelved and archived.
Yes.
Something you may use at some point for some project. But I think there are actually really beautiful moments among those recordings and those trying out sessions, and that's the stuff that I've been releasing on Stoor. Those magic moments. We all know that if you're in the studio, sometimes it doesn't go anywhere, and you're just fucking around, and then all of a sudden things start to click, and everything sort of starts working together.
Yeah.
And even though it doesn't have its final form, it's still a very beautiful moment. And I think moments like this also kind of deserve to be heard by others. So
yeah. No, that pretty much describes like the way we work, and like I think like at this point, like every project I'm involved in, that's the premise, is to like preferably with somebody else, improvising and then recording it and then editing out the magic moments, as you put it.
Yeah. It's in my case, it's a bit there's an element of laziness in it as well. It's like I just feel that I'm more productive when I don't really try to push it into too much of a structure in the end, like where you kind of go so far that you program everything to death, or sort of remove all the life out of it by making it perfect. And I just keep it like a raw diamond, or whatever you would call it. Just like the sketch. Usually the sketches or the first takes of everything are the ones that sort of are the most valuable for me.
The raw edges usually add something as well too. Sometimes you go in and you structure everything and you take it apart and refine it, and it loses its, I don't know, that moment after you've gone overworked things. I mean, not you. I'm just saying in general.
Sure.
I often do that anyway.
Yeah.
So I go listen back and like, oh, that sounded good just the way it was.
Yeah.
Is that something you recognize, David? Because when I listen to your stuff, it all sounds so scientific and programmed, and still very, very powerful and soulful and emotional, but very often, very, very designed in a way.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the thing is that like there's a lot of discussion about like this sort of like raw direct approach that you should work fast and have a sort of direct output without polishing things and so on, because that's but I have a bit of a different view on that. It's like I've never I don't think I've ever been really disappointing at working more on a track. To be honest, like I've always, I've a lot of time I've fucked things up or made things sterile again, or I've lost the magic along the way. But my procedure is I always do like incrementations and versions, and I name them, and I make 20-second snippets of the version, so I can always go back to it. So each time, if I'm at version 27, then I listen back to, and if version 12 was better, then that's when the road went sideways, So
Yeah, but
do
are you still able to remember where is exactly the turn you took? Because I recognize the pattern, because I sometimes do incremental versions of things, but
Yes.
then you change like 5 things, and it might be the extra compression, or it might be the the EQ on whatever instrument that kind of fucked it up or took things out of proportion or whatever. So do you trace can you trace everything back then in
like
easy?
usually if I do any major changing, I'll increment version. Like
Okay.
anything that's like strong or recognizable as a change, I will change the version number. So that means like it goes very fast. It's because like
Right.
I have like tracks of version.
So any finished track that we hear from you is like version 207 or
No, it's more like 40, 45.
It's not too bad. I see why you only render 20-second snippets out of it, because otherwise you'll one track would be like a terabyte worth of material.
Yeah, and 2 years long in the making.
Yeah, it's a very long process. It's like, I mean, I have so much respect for people who can jam one afternoon and be happy on about it directly, and not look back on it and just release it. And I know there are some producers out there who do that, and I have an immense respect for people who can do that, like, or who are the sort of this confidence of
I know what you're talking about.
Thinking like, okay, this is the shit. Like, I won't go back to it. Like, it takes a lot of guts and confidence, and I don't think I have it even after 15 years of doing music. I just feel like, nah, I don't think like I probably, like, I don't know, compensate by just working harder and just to be sure that that is actually really on point. And sometimes version 45 might be very close to the version 3, to be honest. But because I often go in circle, like just add stuff, which is of course not.
So in your case, is it maybe the thought that you can get more out of it, and then you just want to make sure
totally
you have the most sort of optimal version
absolutely
as the final one.
Exactly. It's like when if I have like a synth line or a sick bass sequence or something, I'll do like, I don't know, I'll do like 15 different bass sounds or synth sounds from that same sequence, just to be sure that I have the best one.
Yeah, but it's like part of the process of working with it too. Like you just have to, regardless of whether you're coming back to version 3 or not, it's like that whole way of working through it that you just like have to do,
Yeah.
Like all part of it. And it doesn't really matter if you come back to number 3, because all that you learned on your way to number 45 can maybe do something in another track somewhere else, or
absolutely. And it's also it I realize that it allows me a lot to take some distance from all the automatism I have, or like the reflex, you know, like it's like the producer reflex, you know, like I know how to make this sick kick or synth line, you know. I mean, after 15 years doing that, like I can make pretty much any sound, but there's a lot of that comes from my sort of like habits or reflex, and I fight my reflex all the time. Like I question my reflex. So I think like, okay, why did I make this decision? I made this decision, probably part of it is taste, but part of it also is sometimes the easiest way or the fastest way because I'm lazy.
Can you switch your sort of analytical brain with your sort of intuitive brain easily? Like, can you go back and forth between them like that? Like being the sort of taking the position of to see everything in perspective and be very close and very, very intuitive at the same time? Or do you need like different daytimes for it? Like, you know, like your creativeness happens in the night and your analytical things happen in the morning or something like that? Or do you switch easily between them?
Well, usually I need I analyze things, and like I have the best ideas in the morning, and then it becomes like work later on, and I need some times, and I have to go back to it and listen to it and still feel some emotions, and sometimes also I mean, it's really emotional at the end. It's just the decision process is just whatever moves me, you know, or it can be, but moving doesn't mean like that it makes me cry. Like it can be also, it makes me want to, you know, dance, or it makes me want to just something where I actually feel something, whatever it is, whatever feeling that can be. And also the other thing that makes me judge or make is, and that's where also I keep this sort of like pure, direct, intuitive thing, is whatever I can remember, you know, because I realize like if I don't remember a track I've done, that means it's probably shit, you know.
You remember the moment, the feeling you had when you were working on
you
it.
can describe to your friends, you know, oh, that track there where blah blah, you know, something that you can actually describe with words, or with that you can remember the feeling you had or something.
Yeah, and identity.
That means there's content in it, you know.
Yeah,
it's special.
Yeah, identity is something that I always value a lot. Yeah, I mean, if something is hard to describe, you know, then it's probably too much of everything and doesn't have a strong single identity. And I think identity is a very important thing in to make a strong statement, basically.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So Richard, what kind of person are you? The analytical person or the hands-on intuitive person, or a bit of both?
I guess a bit of both. I think like I tend to be pretty analytical, and maybe especially in the last few years trying to bring out the intuitive side a bit more. So I think that's why I've been gravitating more towards improvisation as the starting point, because I've certainly done a lot of tracks where it was all built in a DAW, you know, piece by piece, and can I switch up this sound? And
really,
yeah.
You would never say that when you would listen to your music. It sounds all very, sort of raw, you know, some almost impressionist, sort of very fast and, you know, put together.
Yeah, I've had other people say that about our stuff, but there's definitely certain tracks, and maybe they're hard to pick out, but that were built, especially like say 10, 15 years ago, when it was, you know, very much based around Cubase and the VSTs, and that was all sort of like a new world around, you know, 2000 or so was when we kind of switched from hardware to software, and then later back again. But at that point, you know, everything was kind of built up inside a DAW.
Mm.
And I guess like, you know, some of it would be kind of, you'd improvise and then record a segment, but it was really a lot of piece by piece structuring and
how you manipulate the sounds too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think either of us find that really satisfying at the moment. It's nice to have the core improvised. I think part of it is just like you can kind of surprise yourself more that way because especially if you're playing with somebody else, things will happen that you wouldn't necessarily make happen if you're structuring it systematically. Because I find, you know, you fall into certain habits. So I'm going to have this sound come out at bar 16 or whatever. Whereas if you're playing without much preconception, things will just happen, and it's not at a specific point. And or accidents happen, so a piece of gear starts to fuck up, and you have to roll with that accident. You know? And that's I like that. I like that kind of spontaneity. But I'll still definitely go back because I do a lot of the editing to reach a finished track. I'll still do a lot of systematic work at that point because there'll be the improvised core and then building stuff around that, an extra layer of percussion or some additional sounds. And then I can indulge the analytic, you know, very detailed kind of work that I still do enjoy doing. But
yeah,
I like more shaping a piece that has some energy in it that kind of came off the floor, and then okay, shape around that rather than building from the ground up system, I guess. But I mean, I think both ways can create great results. It's just what you kind of enjoy, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would that process work? You improvise with like a small controllable kit or setup or something, and then do you then multi-track everything and just keep going until you think, okay, now I've got some ideas down, and then go back and sort of refine them or pick out the nice bits or whatever?
Yeah, that's basically it. Like if I'm just working here by myself, then I'll just improvise with a few pieces of gear and record that, and then build from there. Or if it's Christy and I working together, then yeah, we'll record something at her place onto her equipment, and then she'll bounce the files over to me, and then I can edit from there and then send back to her. That's usually
So when you work together, do you have roles or something, or can each person do anything at any point? What is the sort of role taking in your collaboration?
Well, when we're recording in the studio, it's kind of anything. So we just have everything out, and either of us can be working on like a synth sound or rhythms or whatever. But when we're playing live, normally Rich is doing most of the percussive stuff, and then mine is mostly like bass sounds or melodic, but I don't know, that's not really true either. Sometimes there's crossovers in percussion, and I don't know.
But it's a
roughly for the live stuff, in order so that we don't walk on each other, because we're playing, we're improvising a lot of stuff. So just so that we just discovered it's better if we have some kind of parameters, and then we're not both doing the same thing. Yeah,
like a function in the band, but not necessarily restricted, but still like kind of defined. Yeah.
But when we're in the studio, like often we're back and forth, or maybe I'm making a sound on Modular and Rich is like, oh yeah, let's make it like this, and then he'll come in and play around with it, and vice versa. So it's more fun that way. And then we, like Rich said, then you come up with more accidents as well too, or we do something different, because you know, he might have a certain way of doing percussion, and then if I set that up, I start to do something different, or I do something wrong, but then maybe it sounds kind of interesting, or you know, whatever.
Do you what funny thing to? I'm curious about that. You know, do you both get like the magic moment feeling at the same time, or is it happening sometimes that one of you hears something in whatever noodling is going on and says, "Okay, stop. This is what we can use," or something like that? Because I feel with a lot of collaborations, you know, you always get these moments where you are kind of tuning things and trying to find how things can work together, and then all of a sudden there is this thing which can be a different moment for a different person, where you say, "Hey, this is an idea," like in a way, some sort of like your radar detects something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the same radar, or do you get these moments individually on different moments? How does it work with you?
Rich, do you want to?
I don't know. I mean,
do you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that happens more simultaneously in a live context. But playing around the studio, I think that seems to differ more. Like someone might get more excited about something that's happening than the other in the studio kind of context. But
yeah, and then one of us will pick it out and be like, "Oh no, that's really cool," and
yeah,
you know, the other person's like, "Oh yeah, I don't know," and then but then you start working on it more, and you're like, "Okay, yeah, I can hear where you're going," and then that's where you get something different, because, like Rich said, sometimes you know you have a certain way of working, and so maybe the sound isn't what you're used to doing; it's something totally different, but you don't quite hear where it's going yet, whereas the other person might hear, "Oh yeah, that's got something interesting happening." And that's what I really like about working with someone else, because often you can get caught up in your own thing and maybe you don't hear those magic bits right away, and you need someone else to kind of point it out and go, "Hey, yeah, actually that's really
exactly
cool right there."
Yeah,
or if you're too self-critical, like David, I think maybe you were saying you're a little critical on things sometimes, it sounded like. But sorry, okay, I cut you off.
No. I was just going to say, you know, when you're working together, you know, you can, if there is any conversation at all, sometimes it's like, "Wow, that's way too bassy," and then the other goes like, "Oh, I was actually liking that a lot," you know. You know, like, so, I don't know. So, well, one thing I want to ask David is, since you are more sort of like doing incremental updates and searching for the perfect sort of coherence in your productions, do you ever feel like you are having moments where you are just fooling around and stumbling upon an idea instead of thinking things out in advance? Or
well, it's almost always the case, I guess. It's
all
like
right.
like I just I often have the feeling that I just follow where the tracks want me to go. You know, it's not in reverse. Just like I'm not forcing the track to fit my vision, because I don't have. I have rarely a preconceived vision of where it's going to go. You know, it's almost like I invent systems, whether it's on Modular or on other machines, whatever it is. I invent procedures. So I think before, and the procedure will lead me to go somewhere, and I'm just following the track where the track wants to go. Okay, there's a question.
Question for you from Ben R. What do you look for in a patch when you are preparing for live performances in terms of versatility of the sound? Is something you can explain about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, using Modular in a live environment is a very strange decision first. So it's like you have to acknowledge that it's probably the less efficient way of producing a sound on stage. So so I think a lot of problems can be solved by seeing what can go wrong in advance on Modular, and that's my main focus actually. much more than versatility, because the question was about versatility. It's much. I try to build systems that can be replicated and that I know from start to finish, and that I know there will be. I know it will work, because I mean, we all know that with Modular, that you have a patch and suddenly there's just one cable, you just that went out in the plane, and then you arrive on stage, and then you didn't remember that at sound check you had to take out something, and then you come on stage and there's nothing coming out. So it's just like, it's the worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to find a balance between what is like unpredictable and what is really predictable, and there I always have like machines that will that make me confident that they will always work, and that at least something is coming out of the speaker, and then the Modular is adding the unexpected or the magic to it. I mean, I have this project called Neon Chambers with James Saya, and he has a totally different approach. I think in his own live Modular live, he's full on Modular, so you just come and it will be all about this and so on. But like, I think he's much more courageous than me when it comes to that matter. Like I would be terrified if I only had this.
But don't you think there should be some element of danger in a live show?
Yeah. But that element is 50% for me.
Right.
Not 100%.
Yeah, you want to have something that you you can rely on, and something to leave open to
also
the moment.
Because I don't, I mean, I know there is this romantic idea that you should just come on stage with your machine and have nothing prepared and be a genius. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's this attempt of this, but I used to be a guitarist in a rock band, and we used to like rehearse the fuck out of all the songs. Like we knew all the songs by heart, like not one note. I mean, and then we went on stage. Like, I mean, weren't unless you're a genius like jazz guitar player and you can just go on stage and just improvise, or you're Prince or something, and then it's fine. But for any other people, normal people, I think it's absolutely fine to rehearse, be very prepared, and know exactly what you're going to do to present the best show you can do, or you can play for the people who have paid their tickets to come and see you. I think that's totally fair, and that's actually very respectful. Well, at least that's my point of view.
Yeah, I don't mind the bit of danger and the bit of chance to fail. I think that's part of the game, and it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you sharp, I guess.
Yeah.
And it is also, if that's what you are doing, that's also something that you can feel in the energy of the room. If people see a prepared live show which is too perfectly prepared, it tends to be flat and not so exciting. So there always needs to be some element of improvisation and danger, even in it.
There needs to be this, but
you have to find the right balance. You have to find the right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I've been missing the most over the past year, is that room filled with people.
Oh yeah, don't start.
No, don't start with that.
But that energy, and
it's it's hard. I miss that a lot as well.
Looks like there's a question.
Yeah, from 1,000 Details, our friend Gustavo from Portugal. Question for you guys, Rich and Christina: are you still giving classes today?
I just started doing like online lessons, but just with one person at the moment. So it's very first steps. Yeah.
Okay, so you do like one-on-one sort of coaching or
Yeah.
technical classes. Okay, cool.
Yeah. More for me, I've been mostly just in the studio, and I'm a painter, so I'm in my painting studio as well. I used to teach at the university, but I'm not doing that, thankfully, because I think it would be a nightmare right now. So.
Yeah, I guess for both of us, eh? Students interested. Yeah, Christy used to do classes on music production, so she's had quite a bit of experience with that.
Yeah, and that I'm not sure if he was asking if our non-music students,
I think
like
so.
My art students, know about our music. Yeah, sometimes I have a student come up and say, "Hey, I just realized that I have one of your records." So that's kind of funny.
Nice.
But yeah, I know the last couple of years I've just been focusing on gigging.
Yeah, like I was the guy with no shirt in front of the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So no teaching.
Okay. Well, actually, David was mentioning something earlier, which kind of triggered my interest, because you say you often start your studio sessions with designing a system, and that's actually something I do as well. You know, it's something that is sort of like a mental exercise that can happen everywhere. You know, like walking the dog or something.
Exactly.
It's like the question is always what if I would, connect this to this and, make the chain like this and this. And then I have kind of all this pre-fun in my head, what could happen. And of course it never really happens like that, but it's like a starting point, like really fun to think about, how you can challenge yourself or make like a connection or a chain of stuff that you haven't used before to see what would happen. And sometimes people ask, what happens if you don't have inspiration in the studio? But that really doesn't happen very often, because there's always this sort of system design thing you can use as a trick. You can just connect a bunch of stuff and then just ask yourself what's going to happen. So that's something that you use as well as a starting point.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's why over the years I just basically just sold all my vintage synthesizer to buy either modular or drum machines, because they are the machines. I mean, especially with modular, I found that I can just go to the supermarket and just think about a patch and almost hear it, like, as you say, this mental exercise. And I'm thinking like, oh, what if I would do this, but then I would approach it with that thing, or I would feed something which is not meant to be inside. What if, And then and also I realized, like, in terms of sequencing, for example, it's just like it's very liberating it's also a sort of humble approach to just like design like systems or procedures, and then apply them instead of pretending to compose. It's like it comes like from this sort of like history of electronic music, like, I don't know, back from like John Cage or Stockhausen or things like that, which I think they always like try to like sort of take away the old like composer idea, the the sort of romantic idea of the composer who writes something who has the inspiration and just write music like this, like if you would write poetry. Whereas when you start to design like procedures, it just almost like the music becomes like almost bigger than you, somehow, like it's just like you're just following the results of the seeds you've planted.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I find this liberating, but also a very humble approach, very beautiful actually. You just plant seeds and you just watch them grow, and that's when you just say that's your music. It's a very beautiful idea, I think.
That's really well put. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is procedures, but I think it's also circumstances. It's like I often describe it to myself or other people as the best way to get creative stuff happening is to create circumstances in which stuff can happen.
Right.
So you set up the parameters, which can be gear, but it can also be location or a listening position or
Sure.
I don't know, any factor that can be of influence of what comes out, and so it can be a system, but it can be a process, or I don't know, just anything really, just volume even, like loudness of how loud you play something. It can all be something that is making you decide different things at different moments. And changing the circumstances or designing circumstances can be a major factor in what you end up doing, which is a lot of fun to play around with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have any of these studio tricks or starting point routines, Christina or Rich, in your work?
I work much the same way with I have a certain idea in my head about maybe a certain kind of sound I want to try and make. And so it'll start off like that, but often never really ends up, or it gets sidetracked along the way, and it develops into something else. And you're like, okay, I'll come back to that later. But now I've got this thing that just kind of came out of the process of trying to get something else. Or mixing things together that maybe I wouldn't normally do. Rich and I have recently been making some tracks with the drum machine. I borrowed a friend's 808 and put it through some different modules, and it was making these kind of crazy sounds that we then kind of took apart and turned into something else. And so sometimes those things just unravel, and so I really like this seed idea.
Because that was a beautiful way to
describe it well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rich, you're similar too, right?
Yeah, pretty similar. But I was just thinking as David was speaking that especially this last year with all the uncertainty, and I find sometimes I'm just like, I just don't feel like creating anything. I just don't feel inspiration. But thinking this way of kind of like not foregrounding like your concept as like, the composer, it is liberating. It can help with that kind of mindset of just like, I don't have a great idea right now. I don't have a vision at this moment. Well, I can still turn on the modular system and like, what if I just run this into this and just play?
Yeah.
Without this kind of concept, or okay, what project is this for, and that sort of thing. And I don't know, just as you were speaking, David, I was like, I could use a bit more of that. I definitely find myself doing that, just kind of meandering around and playing and record the results. But it's just helpful to kind of get out of your own way.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that can help, because it's just like things that I've encountered along the way, and I don't think I've always thought like that. I think earlier on, or before. It was a process, like I think I realized that I need to let go on the composer side of thing to advance and make my music more interesting, or still exciting to me, actually. And a lot has to do with actually finding humility in the procedure, letting go on things of like, or even letting go on your own education or what you think is good or bad, like, I don't know, like you're always questioning even things like taste or your really like deep education or your culture. Almost, I think it involves a lot of work on yourself to just let go, and then like just have a much more pure approach to that, I think. I don't think I'm there yet. Like I'm not. I don't pretend to have all the answers. Huh? It's not like that. It's just that I think that's the way I want to go, for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I guess it's very helpful if you are capable of letting go about the idea of what does this thing that I'm doing now belong to, or what is it part of, or in what context should it exist, or something. If you can let loose of all these things, if you can let these things all go, it can be hard, because nobody else. It's like sort of almost going to the North Pole.
Yeah.
Many people have gone there before, but and you don't know what direction to go, because it's all white.
Yeah.
And there's no reference. So it's sometimes harder to judge where you actually are, and how you should value the thing that you're doing. But it's very strong, and it's a very you call it humility, but I think it's also a very confident thing if you can step back and sort of let it be what it is.
Yeah, and be happy with it.
And that, yeah.
Well, are you ever really happy? I mean, does any one of us is at some point like really happy, or is it like temporarily satisfied, or like, okay, I'm just tired of working on this, let's call it a day. Done.
I definitely, there's definitely moments where I feel like, okay, this is good. This is like, I'm content with this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then we listen back a year later, it's like, oh shit, I could have done this differently, and I would have. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's certain things I listen back and I can still appreciate them, and then I'm like, okay, well, I guess that one stands.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, you know when to call it a day, and to say, okay, now it's done, move on to the next thing, right? Because it's the only way to get anything done at all.
Yeah.
You were talking about studio days when you were just noodling around. Do you ever feel you're wasting time? Because to be honest, I never feel that I'm wasting time in the studio, even if it doesn't end up in any release or project. I find these moments very valuable, actually, because they can make you go into territories where you haven't gone before, or you basically all just gather information, or you gather knowledge about a certain type of gear or process or whatever. So do you feel it wasted? Do you ever feel you're wasting your time in the studio, or is it always valuable in some way?
Go ahead, Rich.
Go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, like, I spend hours and hours just noodling in the studio, and a lot of days I'll be just really happy with doing that, and you just have so much fun. But it's when maybe there's the pressure that we have to have something put out, that then I get more stressed out about my obsessive noodling. And like, I have this like backlog, like I think, Joachim, you were saying you have this like backlog of sounds and that you've made. or that you have in the studio, like just you say you find the magic moments and you're releasing some of these. But yeah, I have like just files and files and files of all these things. And sometimes when there's the stress of having to have something out, then yeah, I'm like, oh, I had fun playing, but like we have to have something done and I don't have anything done. And like I find that really stressful. And then I'm like, oh, why did I spend 5 hours like noodling on that one sound? But then like inevitably, like a month later or like a few weeks later, when that other stress has gone back away and you can come back to that, you're like, oh yeah, that's really great. That can be used for something. Or Rich will listen to it and he's like, oh, I really liked that thing. So ultimately it's not like a waste of time. But sometimes in the moment I can be a bit regretful of if there's some pressure,
It could be a nice title for a track, Noodling Guild.
Yeah, Noodling Guild. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Rich, what were you going to say? I cut it on you.
Yeah, no, I don't usually feel like I've wasted my time. I just found lately the last year, it's just like actually getting started, like turning things on. Some days I'm just like, I don't know, the spark's not there, but it's definitely coming back in the last few months.
Oh, you mean about COVID stuff, like just in the
past being locked down, and then like not the lack of shows and the lack of a horizon when this ends, and all of that. I just find there's definitely days where I've just like not turned anything on or not picked up an instrument because I don't feel the spark there. But and maybe also what we were talking about earlier with that David was talking about, that kind of like, the pressure that you might put on yourself to be like, oh, I don't have an idea as the creator. Where's my idea? And that can kind of get in the way. Whereas if you simply just turn on the machines and then see where they go, and you come along, that's a different idea. So
I've definitely found like the last year to be extremely hard with like the same thing that Rich was saying, just with the lack of interaction with people and shows. Like I find this is really nice, this kind of backstage conversation we're having here, but like that kind of thing, like it's always an inspiration, and you get ideas, or you're in a place, you're visiting a new place, and there's something about the sounds in that place or an experience there that then kind of like triggers a starting point or an idea or something. And I think maybe Rich, that's kind of we're both missing that.
Yeah. Come on the remote jam, and we'll do a jam, like a remote jam.
Great.
Yeah. Let's do it. I'm up for it. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, it has really helped me, retaining those moments, and having interaction with other musicians. And it's I'm luckily my location is such that I can invite people here still.
Oh, you're still allowed to have people?
Yeah. I mean, we do all the everything COVID proof, so there we can stay, with on distance with each other and stuff like that. So we do it like in a safe way, but the space is large enough to have a collaborator over for sure. Yeah. And then the remote ones can be done over the internet, so it can be with people from any location, which is 100% COVID proof, I guess. So it's but it's been a lot of giving everyone involved a lot of sort of mental food, like it's just the joy of having interact with other people.
How is that working with the sync then? Like I've always asked me like how do you manage to get in sync?
We've been explaining it on several other podcasts, and actually we're going on our Discord server. We're going to put more and more information about this out there, because I really want to encourage people to try it as well. It's not like because it's if you have like a band member or a friend, or somebody you work with regularly on live shows and stuff. Yeah, how do they sync? That's the most asked question. I mean, we were doing this, just because we want to make music together, and then you don't get comments on the music, but how do they sync? That's all they talk about. No, but seriously, it's basically there are several ways of doing it, but the key thing is dealing with the audio latency over the internet, right? So because syncing is not really the issue. That's what everybody breaks their head over. And the syncing part is just old school DJ skills, just syncing by hand. You nudging a clock until you're in sync.
Clock. Okay.
Ooh, we lost David. Sorry, we lost
Rich.
Rich.
Hey, Rich.
Okay. Well, he'll show up, I hope, again.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come back.
Here is. Okay.
What happened there?
There you are.
Hey.
Just switching corners. I was enjoying my new corner. Oh well. I get it back.
So yes, it's not the syncing. The syncing is just manually, and anybody who has some has a nudge feature can do it. Like Ableton has it, or the Octatrack or whatever. You can just nudge once it's in sync, it stays there for like 10 minutes, and you just have to nudge it just now and then. And a little bit of friction isn't bothering me anyway. But the latency is dealt with through there's this thing called Ninjam, which is there's a compatible plugin which runs as a VST, but you can also use the original one, which is part of Reaper. And basically it deals with the audio latency by delaying the signal on each side with a musical interval. So you're always 2 bars behind the other.
Okay.
You hear yourself in real time. So you hear yourself, playing as you would normally play, because you hear yourself from your own location in your own time, but you hear what the other one's doing 2 bars later, and vice versa. So both people hear themselves in real time, but whatever the other person is doing is coming in 2 bars later, and it's fine. Once you are, especially if you do like more sort of slower evolving stuff and just improvisation, like with modulars, it works perfectly because you're always sort of sliding from one scene into the other anyway. And that's how it works. So it's easy. It's just you just hook up and you just run your DAW, and you can have multiple audio tracks, from like multi-tracks into your DAW, because the plugin is going to be on the master, so that sends a stereo signal to the other person.
That's nice.
And vice versa. So you can use your regular hardware setup and just say, okay, we're at like, I don't know, 135 BPM or 120 or whatever, and press start and go. That's how it works. It's fairly easily.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, if people want to find out, we're going to publish more about it, but we've explained it a couple of times already on this talk. But if you want to get into the discussion and hear the ins and outs, you just have to go to our Discord server, because many people are talking about it and sharing their experiences with this remote jam. Sander has just put the Discord link in the comments, so have a look there if you want to find out more. But anyway, this it's cool. If you're up for it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Hello all from Bouke.
Bouke.
Hey.
It's Bouke.
Are there any artists that you would like to love to work, jam, or collaborate with? So who's on your list, David?
Well, I mean, for now I have I think enough collaboration in the pipe. Like first I have Neon Chambers with James Saya, so that's a big project which takes a lot of time, and we've been touring a lot last year, not last year obviously, but the year before, and preparing now a new record. And I have this other like more post-rock project with Barry Burns and Merlin Ettore from Barry Burns from Mogwai. So it's more like a guitar based band, like where I actually play guitar and so on. So those are like the ones I already collaborate and were let's say on top of my list. So I think I'm pretty much sorted for that. I mean, right at the top of my head, I don't have anyone right now where I think first I would go, unless maybe those two are here. No, but like
our dinner is going to work out one of these days.
Exactly. We've been talking about it for a while now, and so it's quite it's it will happen eventually at some point for sure.
I would say on the top of my list is Jimi Hendrix, but I guess it would require some other.
Interesting.
It would be very, very remote jam kind of operation, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta get on the right plane and yeah.
Do you have any lists, Christina or Rich? Any people, or are you sorted as well?
Yeah, I'd answer in the same way as David. I just want to continue with the collaborations that we have going. With, Michael, Ancient Methods, and Justin Roderick, and I have my projects with my friend David Foster, OH, Rob Rose with our friend Aaron. So that's enough collaborations at the moment, except of course Kangding Ray.
There you go, David.
Yeah, we're gonna work this out at some point. You just need to come back to Berlin, or I need to be allowed to go back in North America.
We did a little jam with Paula Temple one time in Berlin. That was a lot of fun, and I'd like to hang out with her again sometime. That was cool.
Actually, we did one track with Paula. It never got released. Actually, I totally forgot about this. Like that's maybe also on the top of the list, but it just did happen. It never got released. Actually, so. It's a banging one.
I'm sure.
I should ask Paula. Paula.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Hey, Mo.
Hey,
Mo's dropping in.
Mo is here. Hi, Mo.
Hi, Mo.
Mo is interested in if you find yourself repeating patches when in front of a modular. Is there a similar approach every time, or is there a different patch and every time? I don't know. I can answer that for myself. Usually, patches live for 1, 2, 3, or 4 days, but never longer than that. So it's always. The thing is, I never really make the complex. The patches are really not that complex. They are very capable, but I just like to really explore the range of something. If you have one system, just make it go from one extreme to the other. Because with one simple patch you can in theory to span a shitload of range. And I'm just curious where I can take it. What corners I can push it to. And once I, because it is a limited patch, you'll find out after a few days, and you sort of get not really bored with it, but are ready to do other things and move on. So that's how I see it.
Or you get a new module, and then you have
shopping lust. Yeah.
Well, the way I do it is I realized before I started to when my modular started to get bigger, I had this problem that when you have too much modules in one cases, then you just you don't really know, it loses this sort of instrument quality.
Yeah.
So then I just now I broke my modular into 6 cases, and so they all, so it's instead of being this gigantic huge wall of a module, they're set up as instruments. So basically they're just kind of easel size each, and they're all transportable. So then I can bring them whenever, somewhere, or I can even bring them to a friend's place, or to just so they're just really limited in a way, but that allows me to go deeper in those systems, and each cases has a purpose. One will be more like a bootleg kind of West Coast synthesis style. One will be dedicated to rhythms and stuff like that. And so I designed them as instruments, really.
Yeah.
Each of them.
Yeah, I've done it the same way. I've got a bunch of smaller racks, just one row high. You know, like I don't know how
Yeah.
many. I don't know. Is it 84 or something? I don't know. I have no
84,
idea.
yeah, or 106, yeah.
Yeah, I think 84, and they all have a specific function, and I can because it's like a modular system. You know,
Yeah.
you can reorder them and use them in different places in the studio. So if I need like an FX rack or something, I'll just get my FX rack and just put it wherever I need it. It works for me. It's easier because I can never come up with the final ultimate, you know, layout for a big case. You know, it's terrible. But do these cases that you design work as self-contained instruments, or do they need like other stuff to work with?
No, they're all self-contained. Yeah.
Right. And so you would be able to drag one to somebody else's studio and use it as an instrument, right? Okay.
Yeah, they're all self-contained, but like some of them need obviously like an external sequencer or some stuff like that.
Right.
But like in each of them, I have like either like the endorphin cargo to plug like a USB, like either a computer or a USB sequencer, or I have one which is like a normal, like a shared system make noise kind of thing, and it has its own sequencer and so on. And some of them don't even have a proper sequencer, but like more like a clock kind of LFSR, you know, or Euclidean patterns kind of stuff, you know, and it's enough. And I can bring them on the roof here and just, you know, really go deep in this limitation, which helps me a lot, I think, to not go crazy on the huge wall. Yeah,
that's actually something that comes up all the time in these talks. You know, people with sort of a larger than average collection of gear, they immediately start to invent ways to limit themselves. You know,
it's the luxury problem of all.
Yeah, I don't know. Those both sound like useful ways to work. Mine's always just I guess I'm just like having things messy everywhere. My like painting studio is a giant mess, and the music studio is usually a cluttered mess, and there's things all over the place. But
well, that's also a strategy, actually.
I guess I don't know. The organization does sound like a good idea, but yeah, I do something like that for live shows. Like I have. It depends on what kind of thing we're doing at the time, but I'll often have like a basic structure case that I build off of, and usually there's like one brain piece and then components, and so I really know all the patches. So then that way, like you were saying earlier, David, if something goes wrong, then like it's not such a big deal, because like I just will patch them before each show, so I know where everything goes, and I kind of really know those patches, and so then I can change them on the fly a lot easier. So you just kind of really know stuff. But in the studio, it can kind of be anything. But I do like your ideas; those are both good ideas for structuring a little bit.
What I found really also kind of liberating is to put them in transportable cases. So I bought like stuff like, you know, like attaché case or Halliburton case on eBay, really cheap, like really much cheaper than the stuff you can, the cases you would, the normal modular cases you would buy, you know. So I buy all these old like 70s attaché, or, you know, like these very sturdy aluminum cases.
Oh, I think you showed one of those when Rich and I visited you. Really? You showed us,
and it's very
a nice way to quarantine them.
Yeah. It's the cheapest way to buy, you know, modular, to get your modular cases like transportable and sturdy as well. So I just you can use like a CV bus or as power supply or like a. I also have like some with just a platin, like a bus screwed inside and so on. So you can buy these rails as well. So it's very custom made, kind of.
That's a great idea. It also
yeah.
makes it more personal, I guess, more like
Yeah.
your own
Yeah.
instrument. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
They look pretty cool. I think the visual aspect is also important. It's like it's like a guitar. Like you want a nice guitar, a nice instrument. It's just like it's an appeal, and it's also a joy to play on, and it's part of the magic. I think. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to see those cases now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have some here, but like I decided not to flex tonight too much. But I'll show you.
I bet if you would start building those commercially, they would sell like crazy.
Yeah. If I had time, actually now I could have time.
They're bespoke cases.
Bespoke cases.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this really long comment from Intendum DJ about modular synthesis, how to harness it into something suitable. I mean, let's just use that because
and something practical.
Yeah. Because I think that's something you can run into if you use modulars, that you start building a system and end up wasting shitloads of time on learning curves and finding shit out and not really getting anything or nothing. You could argue that it's impractical that way. What do you think about that? How's that for you? Because you all use
maybe how do you do because I don't know. I'll let Christina answer about that.
Yeah, I was a little confused by the question.
I think asking how do you take modular sounds and shape them into a track, because it's
right.
So
I mean,
easily out of control or out of sync. Or
I don't think that like for me personally, I try not to worry too much about that. Like the sound kind of makes its own place. Like you have you're experimenting maybe, and the sound defines where it's going to go and how it's going to fit in. And then a lot of times, like say for Rich and I, when we're working, we'll often go into like say my backlog of experiments and then pick that sound as a starting point. So we're building onto that. I don't know if I'm answering that question right.
Maybe, but I mean, the thing is, it is true that if you see a wall like that, with blinking lights and all these inputs and outputs and patch points and stuff, it is a bit intimidating. But I mean, I think the strategy there would be, just get one thing, get to know it really well, and only if you really, really need to get another thing, just get another.
I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you don't really fully understand what it's doing, you don't really have to know everything, every single function, but you still have to you have to have a strong grasp of what it's capable of doing, right? Because I think it's a danger with these days with all these YouTube tutorials and so much stuff available that if you get stuck for 5 minutes and you reach for the buy button on something new, you know what I mean? It's like getting a new thing. It's not necessarily adding something to your range or vocabulary. It's just making things even more confusing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean,
I don't know if that's the question. That was the question.
Yeah.
Like in a way,
I feel like when I first started getting to modular, like, and particularly trying to work on something that has a rhythmic structure, then I was getting a little frustrated until I kind of realized like how I can, get things in sync and what has to be done in order to make that happen. That's very different than, say, in a DAW where you throw in a VST instrument or something and it's kind of locked in to a grid pattern. And so, maybe if someone's moving from that kind of environment to a modular environment, then they have to kind of get their heads around, okay, well, how do I, get things in sync using gates and figure that out. I think it's a system.
It's like what David's approach really is, just design your instrument so you know each element, what it should do, how the system should work, what the signal flow could be, and then just stick to that. And I think that's a very important.
Yeah, but you could look at it like, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily need to be that. I guess like if you're a person who doesn't really fully understand what you have and you can't get any sounds to go, then, or you're not getting anything that has some kind of texture that you want to work with and you can't move off of it, then that's a big problem. But if you are more open to, like, what kind of, like, say, like, I think about it like a paint palette, like I know what kind of colors I can make and you can mix them together, but I don't need to have something, like, I guess you need to be open to working with the kind of colors that you have and putting them together in different ways. And
I think this comment
I don't know.
nails it. Yeah, this, instruments, whatever it is, synthesizers, modulars, they benefit from having a healthy and long relationship with its player. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's an instrument. Yeah. That's really what it is.
It's true. Yeah. And also, like, just discovering the instruments you've just made. That's why I talked about this idea of like limiting them to carefully designed instruments. Like, in a way, in the modular world, the closest thing to an instrument are always the ones that that are sort of contained, like the EMS Synthi or the Buchla easel, or this kind of limited but very powerful instrument that were first, they cost a fortune. So people, it's sort of like it's an engagement. It's like it was historically it was a really a real decision to buy this, much like buying any instrument of good quality, like a violin would cost a fortune as well. So the first decision to get it means also that you will take the time to engage with this instrument and to know every detail and spend time to and talk with this instrument until you get something out of it. There's no, it's not a direct way. It's not something you push a button and then you have it. Yeah, there's no, any machine that would do that would be a pretty boring machine, if it would just be too straight away, easy, and
relationships with instruments. That's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I actually have a Synthi, and I've had it for a long time, and I actually got it when they were really cheap and people were selling them for nothing.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, same for most of the vintage ones I've got.
Yeah,
all from the early 90s, and people were just selling.
Yeah, the moment where everyone went digital. And
But I really feel like I have a relationship with those instruments. With the 2600 or System 100. It's a machine. It's self-contained. You sit behind it. It demands kind of like this. Humility from you, it has a size as well, it's not like small or distant. It's really it has a presence, you know what I mean? It has it almost talks back to you even by just being there. It has a presence. It's exciting to play with and to have this interaction with.
Do you have any instruments kind of in that format that you maybe don't use anymore, but that you can't part with because of the nostalgia or like that kind of connection that you have for them, that you're just like, oh, I don't use that, but oh, I just can't sell it.
Honestly, no. I mean,
No?
I still use all of them. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some amazing instruments. They are.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm using them all the time, but they're on the, like, everything here is on shelves. I don't have a fixed configuration. I just build setups for each project, basically. I now and then I just get them out, and when I really feel like I need that nostalgic interaction, or
or something different.
Yeah, and since I have had them for such a long time, each new place I move to, they take on a new role because they sound different in a different room, or they end up in a different context than where they were in before. So it's like they keep being useful, inspiring, and because they were designed so well, they're really well designed instruments. I don't know if they were lucky shots, but there's something about them, that make them really worth coming back to. But no, I'm not a collector. Absolutely not. No,
I didn't mean that though. Sometimes there's like, I don't know, you have such a history with something that I don't know, but obviously you use everything anyway. But I don't know. I have this Mirage sitting here.
Sonic.
The old Sonic
Mirage.
Nice. And Rich and I, when we first started playing together, the Mirage was a big thing for us, like for our sound. But I haven't used it in years. But there's no way that it would get sold just because.
Right.
But I know we should probably fire it up, Rich?
No, we definitely should.
Yeah.
Do you have some kind of modern storage interface, or is it still only relying on your floppy disk?
It's a floppy disk.
Yeah. Because you can get old samplers retrofitted now with SD card stuff. I haven't
really?
You can get like SD cards for Sonic or Akai samplers or any.
I have an old Akai sampler in storage. I can't.
Okay.
It's just like it's almost a trauma for me. Like it's just like my first live back in the days were on that machine, and it was.
Which one is it? Is it the S612 or
the S2000?
Oh, 2000. Okay.
Yeah, the one with the little.
Yeah, the 2U rack mount one.
My God, but it had a 8 output card. The one that you could have a 8 output card. So I was outputting on a analog mixing board, and it sounded really good, but I had to reload. It had a zip drive. It was on a zip drive, and I had to reload in the middle of the set always. So it was fun. So just like making some noise and just waiting for the zip.
And zips fuck up so easily, man.
100 megabytes. And you had to have backup because they would be fucked. Really, a bit of a trauma, to be honest.
But you can't get rid of it.
No.
Richard, I see some guitars behind you. Do you feel you have a more intimate relationship with your guitars than your synths, or is it the same?
The same, though. Recently, I've been really into the guitars and working on a project that's like based around the guitar. So there's synths lining the wall over here that you can't see, but they've been in my hands a lot. The guitars lately.
And is there a specific instrument you have like a long-lasting relationship with, like a romance or something?
I'm very fond of the MS-20. That's sort of
that's yours.
A staple, and that's probably my favorite synth that I own.
Question from Jamaica. Hello, Jamaica. What are your favorite ways to process guitar into Eurorec or DAW and implement them in your tracks? I assume you do process guitars, right? So what is?
I guess I'm more into pedals and some, like plugins. But yeah, I've been more old school in the sense of effects pedals rather than Eurorack, though. That's something I wanna mess around with for sure. But yeah, at the moment I don't have any insights in that realm. Yeah, more about long chains of pedals.
Yeah, so I mean, do you make them so long that that it doesn't even matter whether what notes you strike or what instrument or if there's the guitar connected at all?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a guitar.
Yeah,
Does it need the
like
guitar?
a lot of soundscaping going on for sure. But, yeah, it all depends. Like, depends on the project and the track. Yeah, I mean, even with Orphx, guitar is present here and there, even on some recent stuff. But yeah, often processed to the point where you may not discern that as guitar. Yeah.
What is your fascination with industrial and sort of unnatural sounding sounds, like industrial, gritty, noisy?
I don't know. That's almost been almost lifelong. Yeah, I guess ever since teenage years, like kind of moving from, say Depeche Mode, New Order to like Skinny Puppy, like that was sort of like the gateway into industrial music, was that band.
TG.
Throbbing Gristle later, yeah. I mean, I feel like I was always looking for kind of darker sounds, like even in, like I got obsessed with the band Yellow when I was like 12, and they're, especially the more kind of soundscape elements and the darker atmospheres, and then finding that in Depeche Mode and others, and then Puppy opening the door to this whole world. And I don't know what it is. It just, that had this kind of like intensity and
did you always
and thematically that I was just like, oh, this speaks to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I can totally relate, because I had the same, but I only found out afterwards that the sounds that I was into all those years before were actually electronic or synthesized or coming from those sources. And I had no idea. I was just fascinated by the sound.
Yeah,
it's actually oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, at some point I just, I don't know when exactly that moment happened, but at some point you realize, fuck, I can do this myself. This is how it's done, and that's incredible. It's very powerful. But even before I realized, it was always I was never into vocals or into maybe in vocals, but not lyrics. I didn't listen to songs. For example, Depeche Mode has lyrics, and it's all amazing. But I was really what captured my imagination was the sound. Like this otherworldly thing that you sort of it's sort of like a mystery. What's going on? What is this space? What is this environment?
Yeah,
really fascinating.
Yeah, and just like I'm kind of just thinking back to those days of discovering the music, and then realizing that, okay, there was a genre called industrial, and stretching back into the 70s, and finding the Industrial Culture Handbook from Research Publications, which tied the music to broader themes, right? Like to social issues, to political issues. I just found that totally fascinating, that the music wasn't just purely about the music, which in itself was mind-blowing and powerful and kind of took you over, but that there was ideas associated with it too that were like intriguing or sometimes disturbing. And I just got totally hooked with that, and it hasn't stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then seeing the connections from that music to synth pop and to krautrock and Kosmisch, that's the 70s stuff that predated it, and back to Stockhausen. You can go in so many directions from that point. It just became a great way of kind of exploring music from there.
Yeah, disturbing is a word that is interesting in a musical context, because what is disturbing to one person might not be disturbing to another. If you I mean, is disturbing music actually really disturbing? I've always asked myself the question. I mean, I can listen to stuff easily and actually enjoy music that other people would describe as disturbing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I was just talking more about the experience of finding something that at that point in time was disturbing, or I wasn't sure what to make of it. Like, say the imagery used by SPK or one of those old school groups that was, or even Skinny Puppy, that was really creating this atmosphere for you that was not necessarily a comfortable one. And even today, to view some of that stuff, it's definitely challenging. It's powerful, and that was inspiring at that moment to discover that world.
So do you spend a lot of time on the sound design, or is it something that just happens because that's just the way you work, or do you really carefully craft sounds and stuff?
Yeah, I think we both do. I mean, I think we both spend time making sounds separately. That then would be used when we play together, or we might, or it's like we were all talking about, having these archives of sounds. So we're always contributing to those archives and then drawing on stuff from them to put into a track. But yeah, I mean, I love sound design. I mean, that's a lot of fun. I think we both put a lot of time into that.
Yeah, I think there's like a fascination and excitement in creating the sound, like, yeah, just the act of creating it. And that's why the modular is so much fun, because you can start with this this like single tone and then turn it into something crazy that stretches and changes over time. I mean, it's just it's addictive being able to just, there's so many different ways you can process and create something, and it's just endless. And I think that's the fascination with that. For me, I'm really fascinated with patterns and like the process. So I also find that, and that's what I liked about the industrial music as well, too, because the sounds were so like unexpected, or not like the typical something tuneful, or just so many just variations of noise that you could create into something that then changed from being noise to being a rhythm and pattern and something cathartic or exhilarating from I don't know, some kind of simple basic element, and you can just transform it infinitely. And I don't know, find that fascinating.
Are there any concepts or ways of thinking, or thinking about like space or contrast or stuff like that, that you apply in painting and sort of work the same way when you're thinking about sound?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely like that's a big part of it. I think maybe why I connect with that part of the sound design part as well too, like the texture of a certain sound, or shifting the color of the sound through the tone, or the way it, say, I've had a fascination recently with making these sliding sounds, and I'm just wanting to make these sort of sliding and blending tones that kind of shift and move around, and just the action and the feel of them. I get excited even just talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. I relate to that a lot. Like Christina would just say that Christina is I relate to that like 100%. Like thinking of sound in terms of textures and colors and movements. This is exactly the way I see it, and that's why, as you said, like it's amazing to have these machines that available that can actually do that. Like you can actually paint a sound if you're good enough technically and you know a little bit of it, and even if you don't know exactly
Yeah,
everything. Maybe by accident you might, like someone who has no clue, but like will make a beautiful painting. That also is possible, which is I think that's the
and there's the
beauty.
challenge in it too.
It is a challenge as well. Yeah. But yeah, and like especially you were talking about like textures, and I think that's something which is not enough researched actually, because I remember when I started to make music, like I didn't have any money to buy synths or anything, so I was basically just recording stuff because I only had a mic and a sampler. So the sound source was everything around. So like what you call field recording or whatever, but that was more than field recording. That was more like experiment in textures and material, which is kind of like what you described, like what's the sound of ceramic, or what's the sound of wood, or how do you if you scratch the surface, and that's very present in industrial music and concrete music, and but in all type of related like electronic related music kind of, and it's a fascinating source actually, like the physical world, like because that's something we know. But when you stretch it, or when you try to replicate it, it becomes like this sort of like universe. You like a Pandora box you open, and you think like, oh, I can see the world that way. Like actually, I can see the world in colors, in textures, where actually maybe when it will sound kind of esoteric now, but like if everything is vibration, that means like maybe sound and light isn't that far away.
I like
they
that.
both
I'm into that.
They're both
thinking as well.
vibrations. Yeah. It's a very it's a fascinating subject, I think.
Yeah, it's funny you say the world around you, because that is really what that is. That is sort of like the default state on which you build your alternative reality. You basically, that's the point of departure, and everything else that is not a natural sound is basically, I wouldn't say commentary, but it's that's a version that could not arise from natural sources, but still has the natural world as its context. That's why it makes a certain impression on you, or it speaks to you in a certain way. I would say I spend more time on contrast and texture and aesthetics than melody or rhythms. That's the stuff that I'm actually really interested in. The relationship between the sounds, the perception of it. Those are the things that are most fascinating to me, rather than melodies you can sing along, or I mean,
for sure.
Yeah,
or how a certain sound makes you feel, whether gives a feeling of tension or calm, or there's so many different ways to manipulate your sound to create certain feelings. You don't need the lyrics. You can kind of do that with your sounds the same way.
Do you have some kind of exclusive Orphx studio language, like like words you use that nobody else uses, but instantly what you're talking about?
We probably need an outside observer to tell us. Nobody talks like that. No one actually says that. So,
I've probably already used them.
No, I don't know about you.
We definitely have like little. I couldn't even tell you what we say or do, but there's definitely like when we're performing live, because it's so loud. You can't really have a conversation up there, but we often do need to communicate something like, let's move to this now, or let's bring this down, or because we have sort of a structure loosely planned out, and then we're improvising within that. So there's definitely times we have to communicate. So it's just be like a hand signal, or like the hand down, take this down, or up, I'll say like the beginning of a track name.
Yeah.
So
or get that the hell out of there.
Rhythmic section. What says?
Or get that the hell out of there.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
No, not that stuff.
Feel the right symbol.
And then you realize that you're the one making the sound. Like, like, Rich, what's that noise? And I'm like, oh, I'm making that
noise. my mic's on. It's been feeding back for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sometimes that's interesting, because sometimes you're just jamming along, and whether it's by yourself or another person, and you think, oh man, this has been on for 5 minutes and I didn't even realize it, like some kind of feedback or something that has been part of the thing that you're listening to, but you just ignored the fact that it was there. It's funny how that sounds sometimes work, because you focus in on something else and then you completely forget about something. It's embarrassing when it happens, but it still does.
But it's part of the performance.
It was intentional. You can always say
that. I was going to say that earlier when you were talking about kind of the magic moments thing and who spots it, and I was thinking, well, there's many times when I go back and listen to recording and I thought was just sort of a not very notable jam or even a performance, and then you listen to the recording and you're like, oh, this is really great, this is something we can use, or this is powerful. But at the time, I don't know, depending on where your head's at, you don't pick up on that as being particularly exciting or interesting.
Yeah, because maybe the radar wasn't there. You weren't scanning for anything. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. That's interesting to hear from you guys. But I always have the recording button on. Always, as soon as there's sound coming out of something, the recorder is running, or the DAW is running to pick it up, and it happened quite a lot. That you are just plugging things in, and some machines are already kind of sort of spitting out sound and doing something. But the fact is, while you were doing that, you were not really thinking about it, which is sometimes a very powerful moment, because you were just, I'm just doing very intuitive, not even listening too closely to what's happening, and just your mind is occupied with the system or the idea that you want to get into or something like that. And then sometimes the work is being done for you. Without ever realizing it. So are you always recording, or are you
try to? I mean, it's a good practice for sure, because there's definitely been moments where we've been doing stuff and then realizing, oh shit, that wasn't recorded.
I mean, I'm not saying that anything from those moments has ever become like a massive record, but it's still something you can overlook if you're not there, and that's something that still might give you an idea for.
Exactly. It might not be used in recording, but it's like, oh, that produced this interesting sound. I can try and recreate that. And I missed it at the time when I was doing it.
What about you, David? Are you always recording?
No, I mean, not always, but like I try to record like longer sessions and like kind of jams and like say like something like between 10 and 20 minutes would be my kind of the moment where I think, okay, I have enough material to make around that patch or that idea to make it interesting. Sometimes it might be longer. It might be a 30-minute nonsense if I really feel it. But like, I mean, it happens also sometimes where if I don't record, and I just jam and I forgot to press record, and and then I think like, oh, I should record that, but then I press record, but then because it's linked to the modular is linked to the computer. When I press record, then it will reset.
Shit! Everything will be out of time and shit.
And then it will become in time again. And that's too boring again, whereas when you're noodling around for long, sometimes you start to have like these really nice shifting patterns and this kind of like offset kind of thing. And when all the clocks come back to zero, then it's just like, that's the starting point actually. So it's true. Like I should then I think like I should have started to record before it was interesting. So that I get these magic moment and not trying to replicate.
Yeah. Or you just punch in while it's running. I mean, you don't have. You can just run the clock from your DAW and then just leave it running and provide the clock. And once something interesting starts to happen, you can.
Then I'm not. I don't have this reflex. I think I'm just. I'm not. I'm not. But that's a good idea, actually. I should.
Well, the thing is that I've just fucked up so many times, that there is always this voice in the back of my head, like the engineer, the watching over the guy watching over the process kind of feeling, that that make me do these things. I always make sure that the levels are right. That's just a second. It's in the back of my head.
Idea,
you know what I mean?
Because that's very good practice.
It's just something I kind of learned to do because I made mistakes so many times by not doing it.
Well,
that's the thing with live patching. You are patching, and sometimes you patch something which is in some place of the cycle, and it sort of latches onto whatever is going on, and then when you reset the clock, everything is fucked up. Everything is gone. That's just terrible.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, the thing is now I have this sort of almost like this kind of rule that I want to record with the chain on. Like I have this sort of kind of like channel, sort of like a channel routing with EQ and a bit of limiter, so that I don't do the work afterwards. Because that allows me to not do any EQ or compression afterwards. So I try to stick to that practice, and so to record with the intention of recording, with the EQ in, and have a strong incoming signal, so that I have less work after that.
To try and fix it or something.
Because otherwise, like I realize, like if I start to EQ something at the end, like that probably means it was shit anyways. So like there's no need to try to save something where that was badly recorded. So I take care much more now that the way I record things in the chain before, so that at the end I do very little treatment afterwards, very little effect, very little compression in the box or in the mixing process. It's more about assembling. It's more like cooking at the end. It's just like a little bit of that, but not. I'm not trying to save things, because the incoming signal has to be good enough from the start. So that's why the moment where I punch in it's a bit more it's a bit more like, let's say it's an engagement, because I need to have this intention of recording it. But like I still learn, like but what you say, Johan, is maybe a good idea to just have the computer clock running and then punch in whenever. It's maybe good. I'll try that.
Yeah, I mean, two things can happen when you are experiencing a really nice moment that you want to record. Whether one thing is that we just discussed, it's the reset that can happen in your analog chains or whatever, or it's the red button syndrome. Like, oh shit, now it's recording. Now it should be good. Now
it's gonna be good.
I need to do something,
And then you get stiff,
Maybe before you were just fucking around, and then the recording comes on, and you try to do too much or something.
Yeah, that's true for sure.
And if it's recording all along, you don't have that problem. You don't have the syndrome.
Yeah. That's
Just need a bigger hard drive. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can always toss it. You can always just bin it afterwards. I mean, it doesn't need once it's recorded. It doesn't mean it always has to stay there. It's just a method of capturing things when they happen. Anyway, Wow, I'm watching the clock. I know you have busy schedules. It's 10 minutes left to to 10. Time flies, people. Let's see if there's anything in the people amongst any questions among the people who are watching on Twitch and YouTube. If you have any urgent questions or things to ask us, maybe do it now. This is your chance. What can we talk about in the meantime? Let's maybe see if there are.
You were asking about collaborations earlier. Do you have anything coming up yourself that you're particularly excited about it?
Well, I'm the thing that is really exciting to me now is that I'm collaborating with a different person every week. You know, we have these Sunday streams, and it's incredible how many people you know I've worked with, and some of them for the first time, most of them actually, and yeah, that's just really exciting. You know, just starting something new every week and without a plan. Basically, the plan is just building a setup together, and usually if people come here as a guest, they bring like a small arsenal of stuff they know, and then they make additions of whatever they find on the shelves, you know, if there's something they would love to try out or something, and then I listen to whatever they can do with that setup, and I try to build something around it which complements it or can you know do interesting stuff to accompany whatever they're coming up with, and then it's just making sure everything is clocked well and the levels are good, and it's hit start and go. You know, that's a really exciting thing. And you know what is very clear is that even though if you haven't met people before or haven't played with people before, there's always, even with the first session, some kind of direction or common ground where you end up, you know, and it's just a wonderful feeling of doing things on the fly and then just finding communicating that way with other people, you know, just really.
How long do you usually do your sessions for? Just thinking, like sometimes I find like we've had a lot of fun collaborations, but sometimes there's like the first bit is kind of like a getting to know each other and a little bit of nervousness and like kind of figuring out how you work together. And especially if you're like collaborating with so many different people, like maybe you're kind of getting into it, but the people that are coming in are maybe a little nervous, or I don't know, how are you finding that?
Well, I mean, the thing is that it is a performance for an audience, right? It's an internet audience. So, and even though the people are not with you physically, you know, you are playing for other people, and some people just have their phone on the side, you know, watching all the stuff going on. I mean, so, you know, as much as the red button syndrome can be something that works against you, it can also work for you, because you know, this is the time when we're playing and nobody wants to fuck up, you know, so you're doing something. So it's trying to find the balance between going crazy and doing something that makes sense, you know, and that sort of movement between the two ends is the interesting part, because some people are more free to let themselves go and just don't give a fuck where it ends up, you know, as long as it's fun to do. And those are often very interesting musically, you know, and other people are more sort of result driven and want to do something, you know, banging
gotta be good.
Something coherent. And but there's everything in between, and often in the same session, so you never know where it's going to end up, you know. And it's just for me, it's really exciting. I mean, it is a shitty time in one respect, but it's a very creative and exciting time for me in the other, you know, because of this. So it's it's very cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so did anybody? Okay, Ken. Any gear you saw from NAMM 21 that you're interested about? Oh, I haven't actually watched that myself. I'm sorted.
Is NAMM that NAMM is this thing in LA, right? The big music thing, right?
Where manufacturers are presenting their new releases, and
I haven't seen anything, so I don't know. Don't watch it.
It's not been on my radar. I'll probably
What do you?
Anyway, Unknown Artist UK, what do you want to play on your first show after the pandemic? Hard stuff, experimental. Anyway,
Yeah.
Warehouse, just fucking slamming.
yeah, bleeding
Yeah.
tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for days, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it all out there.
I want to be on a sweaty Sunday evening at Berghain.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's sweaty, packed with people, really
Yeah.
close. Like you could
Oh, yeah.
smell them. Yeah.
Yeah, I really realized how much I missed it. Actually, like I remember, like, sometimes before the pandemic and so on, like, you remember this time when you would. I mean, I was never really jaded or anything, but like sometimes you would just, sometimes feel a bit tired about things, or you
All
think
flights
like,
or whatever.
and then now you're like just laughing at this thing because like you think like I would do anything to go back to this. Like it also I think it made us all realize, because it's the same, I guess, for you and for a lot of people I've talked to, that how much it is important. It's not only a job, or it's not only a party, or it's not only fun. It's just like it's life changing. It's life content. It's a part of an equilibrium. So it is so much more than what it is. What it seems to be when you hear, what politics say about it, or like how they treat it or something. It's much more important than that.
Amen.
For a lot of people,
Yeah.
not only artists. I mean,
no. I've actually realized that more and more, during this time, and I think you can find alternatives like we do, or collaborating with people, being in the studio with people. That's all really lots of fun, but I mean, the energy and the social interaction that takes place in a room full of people, and also the fact that the music is blown out to such big proportions on a massive system. It's a total physical experience for everybody involved. It's almost tribal. It's like a common celebration, a common sorry,
celebration of life.
Absolutely. That's what it is. Yeah. And it's a very very deep experience, and you don't realize when you're sort of on the mad train of the rush of life, basically, but fast moving life. But now it's very apparent that this, especially the common experience, is probably the one thing that is missed the most. The common feeling of experiencing something together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud.
Yeah.
Loud.
Yes.
Very loud.
Cool. Well, thanks, people. I really love this talk. It was really interesting, really nice to speak to you. Usually on the last few minutes, we give everybody the opportunity to tell the audience what they are working on, what they've got coming up, what they're doing now, and what we can expect, where people can find your music and stuff like this. So David, anything you want to share with people?
I've been doing a lot of music during the lockdown time. Actually, it was surprisingly productive, but I'm not sure I want to release much things right now. Like, to be honest, like I don't feel so much the attention there or the momentum, but I keep collecting and I keep doing things. So there will be stuff coming from me in probably at in the second half of this year, let's say. So I have a new EP coming out on Figure. And then we're preparing a new record with Neon Chambers with James, and then I'm mixing right now the Suns album with Barry Burns and Merlin Ettore, and What else do I have? I'm still working on the next Kangding album, but doing an album right now is a bit it's a bit of a crazy decision. So, but I still work on it, let's say. But there will be stuff coming in the next months.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. Actually, I just realized we haven't even touched on talking about audiovisual stuff with any of you, which is a part of anyway. Maybe a next time if you something that's a really interesting field as well. But anyway, thanks, David, for joining. Really enjoyed having you.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, Rich. I saw you have done lots of re-releases recently in your Bandcamp. There's lots of archival stuff, which is amazing, by the way. Anything new coming up, or are you focusing on your archive work?
There's some more archival stuff I'm working on right now, and well, there's a project that Christy and I did back in the 90s called Antiform that was more drone kind of based, kind of Soviet France inspired. So we have a re-release of some of that material, and then unfinished stuff from the project that we're now finishing. So it's almost like a new album of the old stuff.
A rework.
Starting point. Yeah. So there's that, and then we're working on 2 Orphx albums.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
2.
So one that was supposed to be out last year, but
it's not really the right timing.
Yeah,
we want people to, actually hear
it loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're working away on that one, and then we had another project that was based on an audiovisual performance that we did, I guess 2019. That was using infrasound, like sound below 20 hertz. So we're working on an album based on that material. So that's much less. Well, it's not dance floor focused. It's more of a listening kind of soundscape.
Wow.
Album. Yeah. So we have those two different ones that we're working away on.
Can that be listened to on any playback system?
No, that's the challenge. It has to be able to. So I mean, there'll be.
You don't have to. You can.
Yeah, there'll be music above 20 hertz, but if you want the below 20 hertz content, you need speakers that will reproduce it.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, it will be like totally. You'll get the sound and the overall feel for the album by listening on a regular set of speakers. Okay. You'll just kind of miss the bonus from the infrasound. But
well, that's interesting. But now you got me triggered. Well, do the sounds that you can't hear actually contribute to the stuff in the upper levels as well, in a sense, or could music exist without it?
Yeah, well, the idea is you can listen without having that information. There may be segments that are not, like short segments that aren't audible unless you have the speakers that can do it. But we're still working that out because this was done all for a live context with the right system. So now we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we put this in an album context that still works?
Wow. So the lower sounds, like the really low sounds, do they actually have nothing above that range, or are they still kind of part of the sound in a different way? Or are they just cut off?
Both. So there's some stuff that goes down into that range, and then there's other stuff that was like for the live show that was just working in that range. Like there were segments where it was only infrasound.
That's crazy.
The whole like
I really want to listen. I really want to hear that in this room. I can go pretty low, so it's.
It was great to have this system to work in, and the space that we were in is like a designed. We were able to use space map as well, so the sounds move around the room. So we design where individual sounds kind of moved in the space. So you had this. The low infrasound, but then also these higher register sounds moving.
Was that produced by transducers and or was that regular sub speakers?
They're called VLF I
Yeah.
think it was Meyer Sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they provided the speakers to this performance space,
Okay.
and then we're able to use them. And we believe that they're still in this performance space, so we really want to get back in there.
Yeah.
And okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Record them or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is a whole other. This is triggering a whole other range of possibilities. Yeah, you mentioned transducers. I've done in the past some work with multi-channel audio in rooms where there actually were transducers, like 32 transducers, and they would just shake the floor under with on everything under 20 hertz or something. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. I've done installations with those. That's why I ask. It's it's they're really like mechanical things, items that you can actually screw to any material. So we use really thick like pieces of wood, like wood panels, and use them as speakers. So they would be like producing like objects or surfaces, and then screw those transducers on it so that they're just vibrating and producing this insane like below 20 hertz, like 5 hertz rumbling where it gets really physical.
It's
awesome. Actually, Richard, you don't necessarily need to go to a room like that to work on music like that, because there is a studio device which was originally designed for drummers.
The jetpack, the kind of the pack thing.
The pack is not. I don't really like that. But there's a thing called the butt kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, you screw it. It's got like 1,000 watts amp, and a device you screw under your couch or your studio seat.
Okay.
And it's sort of like called silent subwoofer.
Right up the ass.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, drummers use it to get the thump in there, they hit the bass drum. But it's actually a really good studio tool, because I would expect it could be tuned so well, but it's really, really accurate. And if you're working with it, I've got.
I need to get one of those.
Yeah. I haven't used mine for a while, because I've got a pretty decent sub, but it is actually something that feels strange for the first 5 minutes, because your chair is shaking and it's reproducing, like it's not making sound, but it's still connected to the music somehow. And like it lasts about a few minutes when your brain makes the connection, and you forget that you're just having vibrations, and you actually start hearing it as part of the music. So it's really like a sub, but it feels weird. It's like it's a really good addition to a small studio setup if you want to have very clear picture of what's going on in the very, very bottom end. And there's a crossover point. You can set it, so you can put it right where the speakers stop sounding, and the thing takes over. It's a really, really cool tool.
Cool, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another 10 minutes. Great. Sorry, I don't want to mess up your schedule for today, but Christina, maybe one last thing you want to tell people what you have coming up, maybe, or your own stuff, or where people can find your music, like.
Orphx.com. I had started a new label last year, so Ecstasis. That's all just Orphx.com, though. Everything is
okay.
People go there pretty much. Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you.
Good to have you all on, and all lovely people with amazing minds. Thanks for joining. Really had a good time.
Yeah, super fun. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks to the people on YouTube and Twitch for joining us. And I guess, see you next week. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.